Hey everyone, welcome to the fourth installment of Clem's Log. And today we're going to be exploring a couple of alternatives to Swagger UI, which has been a really popular user interface for OpenAPI specifications. I've personally been using it for close to a decade now, if not longer, but it's missing a lot of modern features that can improve the developer experience significantly. So we're going to look at a couple of applications that will take that developer experience when working with REST APIs to the next level. So one is Scalar, which is an open source library that's been around for a very long time and has 15,000 stars. And the other one we're going to take a look at is my tiny little repository that I just open sourced before I discovered Scalar existed. And you can let me know which one you like better, but we're going to explore both options to hopefully help you improve your own developer experience and within your team, or even for your end users if you're going to deploy these API references to production. I'm really excited for this one. So yeah, let's dive into it. Random note, if you're wondering what happened to the first 3 episodes of Clem's Log, I uploaded them to a separate Google account before I realized that YouTube apparently doesn't promote your videos if you have no activity on your YouTube account. At least that's what some growth YouTubers told me when I watched a YouTube video on why I'm not getting any views. And so I decided to upload this fourth video on my own personal YouTube account where I have a lot of activity, and we'll see how that compares. And we'll kind of just treat the first 3 log videos as practice videos. And who knows, maybe there'll be calls to release those in the future. I don't know. Very embarrassing though. But for now, they'll stay hidden on the other account, and we'll progress on this new account with episode 4. Now, enough distractions. Let's get into the video and show you the 2 awesome applications to help you improve your developer experience. All right, let's dive into the applications. But just before we do that, I want to give you some context just in case you don't know what Swagger UI is. So Swagger UI is a very popular OpenAPI reference that is bundled a lot in many frameworks. For example, like Nest.js, you can install a plugin for it. I think Spring Boot on the Java side has it as well, and I'm sure other frameworks like .NET and stuff have plugins that you can install to display a Swagger UI API reference like this. So it's important to kind of see where we're coming from before we jump into the modern applications. So what does Swagger UI do? So Swagger UI essentially takes a file like this, which is a open API specification. So this one is version 3, as you can see up here. And it sort of gives a structured output of all the API endpoints that you have defined, like /health, etc., the HTTP method, get, etc., and we've got some post methods down here. What parameters does it take in, the request body and response that you might expect, and some other metadata like the tags and summary. So it takes all of this information and then it displays it in a much more human-friendly way, right? So you get the tags up here, which translate to these little groupings that we see here that you can collapse. And then we got the HTTP methods that are all color-coded, and it's a lot easier to identify than in some huge JSON file. And then, it shows us which parameters that, belong to that endpoint, gives you some drop-downs that you can select when you click Try Now. And then, the expected response from this endpoint, right? Looks very good. It's very basic, and it served us very well for a very long time. But once you start using it extensively, you start to realize that there are a couple of convenience features that you wish you had. So for example, just searching through these endpoints, there's no ability to do it natively, right? So I have to use the browser search and then do something like that, and then jump across the UI by just hitting enter a bunch of times. So not ideal, but it works. And then there are a couple of UI, UX issues that make things a little annoying. So if you click on this post products endpoint, for example, you can see it expands to show me all the information. But you can see as I scroll down, right, because it just displays everything underneath it, I can't even see which endpoint I'm currently looking at anymore because it's not sticky. And then if I scroll down, now I can't see, the request information. And essentially, I can see maybe like, part of a request at any given time, which is not ideal, right? It's not the most, how I say, friendly user experience. You have to scroll up and scroll down all the time, especially if your screen is small. If you are lucky enough to have a very nice vertical screen, then this might not impact you quite as much. But for most people, I think this will be quite an annoyance. And there are a couple of other things as well that you can't do here quite as easily, which you'll see in the other specification viewers that I will show. So now that you've got like a basic understanding of Swagger UI, let's show you the more modern alternatives. So we've got Scalar, and before I came across Scalar, I had built my own user interface, essentially, that also takes in the OpenAPI specification and essentially renders a UI around it. So this is what we call the Scalar API reference. Scalar also has another application or product, which is called the Scalar API client, and that looks more like this. So similar to your Postman, etc. You'll be familiar with this sort of UI. So Postman, HTTP IE, Insomnia. So very similar to that. You can use Command K to bring this up, import, and then you can specify the API endpoint path, and then it will go ahead and, if I can find the URL, you can just import your specification and it will show up here, right? And then, so that's the API client, and it's going to be very familiar. So if I go to get the get endpoint, you can see get endpoint up here. You've got the URL and the path, and then you've got your request information and your response information. So if I just send this, you can see all the cookies, the headers, response, etc. Right? So this is the API client. So that's that product. We're going to focus a bit more on the API reference today. So the API reference product, you can integrate with your dev server so that it shows up like this, sort of like how Swagger UI will pop up when you start your dev server if you've configured it properly. And this is what that looks like. And the way I did that for Nest.js is I came into their documentation here, installed the package, and then just did the integration here, right? So yeah, you import the API reference up here, and then you can see it being initialized here. And they have support for many other frameworks as well, like Flask in Python, Golang, and then Java, PHP, and I think .NET and stuff as well. So they do support a lot of frameworks, which is really, really awesome. And I think that's quite appealing. And yeah, before I show you my version, let's dive a bit more into Scalar. These guys have 15,000 GitHub stars, so they've been around for a very long time. They have been proven and it's stable. And when you integrate it with your dev server, this is the UI that you get. So already you can see the layout is very different compared to Swagger. All right, just as a refresher, this is what Swagger looks like. It's just one long list of endpoints without any search. But if we go to Scalar, you can see we've got the search, right? We can click on here and we can search user, we can search files, and then we can go, use the up and down arrow keys and then just go to the endpoint, and you get all the documentation here for the different endpoints, right? So I can, let's say, go to upload file. I can see the different responses like so. And then we've got the interactive request tester up here. You can change the language. They support many different languages here, which is cool. And then you can do the test request. And then this pops up a UI that is very similar to the API client that we saw earlier. So this is the API client. And then you can see this. And if we click send, yeah, there we go. Right, you get the response, headers, requests, etc. So very similar, and you can even open it in the desktop application as well. So yeah, definitely an improvement on, Swagger UI, right? You get a search capability. You can maybe even ask AI, although I haven't really tried that. And you get a much more compact UI where I can like collapse different tags, right? And see these and select like this and scroll through. So this is what you get with Scalar. So quite simple, I think. Initially, I was looking at the API client and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. But then I realized the API reference is a more like peeled back version of that. But yeah, you get this API reference, very cool, and a big improvement on Swagger. You can even do the configuration here with all your different settings and so on. Yeah, it's just way more capable than Swagger UI. You've got the dark mode here as well. Neat, very neat. But I wanted to show you another option, which is the one that I built recently. And this is also open source. And I don't have a cool name like Scalar or anything like that, but you can check it out here at Better Open API Viewer. This is an example of how you define the tags and the metadata for Swagger in Nest.js. But yeah, if we look at the code here, yeah, it's just a Better Open API Viewer. And we've broken it up into like a core module, a React module, a UI module, and also a Nest.js integration to make it easy for people already using Nest.js. So we don't have quite as many integrations as Scalar, right? Scalar supports all those frameworks we mentioned earlier around like Golang, Laravel, Flask and Python, etc. But this is our take on an API reference. So I wanted to show you this. So again, it's a different flavor on the UI, but you can see you can choose your open API specs up here. So and then you can adjust the settings, add new specifications, add servers. This is still alpha, and I'm not particularly happy with this UI. So a lot of this might get revamped to make it better. But yeah, you can manage your cookies. You can export your settings in case you have this UI deployed elsewhere. You can import your settings so they all preserve. Then you can choose your server, right? And then yeah, here you go. You got your search as well. So you can do products, for example, or you can do variants. And then you can see like it's very quick. It filters through quite a lot of endpoints. I've tried it with like 400 plus endpoints and it's still very rapid. So you have your filters here. And then you can, I just want to get endpoint or I just want the post endpoint, etc. I think our filtering capabilities and search is a lot more capable in that sense to get you what you need exactly. And yeah, you can filter by the tags or the resource, right? And you can, filter or show multiple at the same time that you wish. And then down here, we got, which endpoints require authentication. You can say, I just want the ones that require auth or no auth, etc. And yeah, there's heaps and heaps of filtering options here, even the content types or the models, right? So this is really capable compared to Swagger UI. And if you click on the models, you can see all the individual schemas and models as well. And yeah, if we go on to the middle panel, so the left side is for all the configuration and search and filtering. And then in the middle, you can click on the endpoints that you want to see. And then on the rightmost panel is the details view for that particular operation. So the first tab, we've got the reference, and this is the documentation for everything related to that API endpoint. And then you can go to try it out, where you can select the server that you want to hit. and then you can see the cookies that are currently available for this domain. Um, so without having to, go into your dev tools, go into application, then go into cookies, like so, right? You can just see that information here. And then you've got your parameters as well. Then you've got the generated request, and you can see here it's even got validation as well. So if I don't, uh, have anything here, it will fail. Then if I do send request, you can see the response below as well. We don't have quite as many options as as Scalar yet. This is still super early, so we've just got the basics. But yeah, the UI, I guess we're doing a very different approach. Scalar's HTTP client, I think, is much more developed than ours. So like if we do the this one here, test request, you can see it's a bit more fleshed out. And if you use the application, actually, I think there's even more features that you can configure, like all the variables and so on. So very neat. But yeah, a different take, right? These are all resizable too, so you can, fit your screen. It's also mobile responsive as well. But yeah, this is a second option that you have for your API reference if you're looking to migrate over from Swagger UI. And this is also open source, so you can feel free to play with it as you wish and add any integrations to your favorite framework. But yeah, essentially, I built this to kind of solve my own issues around Swagger UI and the limitations around search, and then slowly I added more and more things onto it. But yeah, it was getting pretty hectic. I had something with like 400 plus API endpoints, and it was just an absolute nightmare to go through. So I was like, okay, we need our own solution here. So yeah, so now you got two good choices, I think. So you've got Scalar API reference. And again, you can go down to their documentation, figure out which framework you are using, and then integrate it. They're, I think, more polished and more stable. They've been around for ages. So if you want something stable, reliable, and supports your particular framework out of the box, please use Scalar. And then if like this particular user interface concept, yeah, feel free to give ours a try as well. No right or wrong answer here, just different takes on, yeah, API references for your server. And yeah, I'll link the repositories below so you can take a look at both Scalar and our better OpenAPI viewer. I'm not very creative, so, maybe we need to change up this name. But yeah, those are the two ones that I showed you. And the differences between the API reference for Scalar and also the API client that they have. And yeah, hope this helps improve your own developer experience and maybe even your users as well if you're, deploying this in production somewhere for your users. I hope it improves your developer experience. And if you like seeing deep dives like this or more videos like this, a like and subscribe would be really appreciated to help us grow. Our channel is really tiny at the moment. So yeah, your support means a lot. And thank you so much for being a real OG on the channel. So yeah, thank you so much. That's it for me today. Bye.